Yeah.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, so
We are live from Studio K.
welcome to the PHNX Wildcat Show. Oh, that is so sexy. I love that. And again, coming to you live from the Studio K, presented by Circle K. Saul Bookman. Head on over to Circle K, Arizona's locations where you can get any size Polar Pop or Froster for just 79 cents now through September 3rd. Saul, that is awesome. That is why we have a crack production staff right there. Very good stuff.
We do. We need to fix your background. It looks a little crooked right now. What's going on there? Looks like a little tilted a little bit. That's okay though.
We'll get it all.
We are live from Studio K now, and it is pretty sexy back here.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. Welcome back.
We got a little Noah. We got a little T-Mac. Let's go.
That picture on Travis Hunter, by the way, with that one-handed catch. Very nice. Right. Very nice. All right, we got a lot to get to this show. We're going to talk AAU accreditation, why it does not matter. We're going to talk Big 12 coaching ranks. We are going to talk a little bit of a Marquis Groves-Killebrew. I know his Pops listens to the show all the time. Hello there, Pops. We're going to talk a little bit of offensive line. But first, Saul, obviously, the big talk has been a lot of Big 12 realignment, Big 12 expansion. Brett Yormark, one thing about Brett Yormark that I very much like is that he basically says, I do not care about societal norms. To quote somebody at ALLCITY, I do not care about your unwritten rules. He has basically stated, and the way that they are going out is that he does not care if certain schools are AAU accredited or not, which basically means that they're considered elite level academic institutions. He says, listen, I am a commissioner for sports. I want to bring the best conferences. I want to bring the best schools in here. I love that. That's very refreshing. We did not have that in the Pac-12.
It's a business decision. Like you got to be agile. We talked about this last week at Big 12 Media Day, and his views on really trying to promote the brand, trying to take advantage of opportunities that come about, and really positioning them the Big 12 in a way that they can be versatile enough to be able to adapt and take advantage of opportunities that do come forward. And listen, the ACC could very much be like the Pac-12 here in the next year or two. Where they, if you don't jump off and get onto a lifesaver, you will find yourself on the outside looking in. And schools know that right now. They understand that right now. And listen, until somebody takes control at the NCAA level and tries to minimize this movement, it is going to be a constant state of flux in terms of teams moving. Hell, we even saw a rumor this morning about potentially some Big Ten teams that might bounce and go to like the SEC. So again, it's all over the place. You have to be ready to attack, and you have to take advantage of opportunities, because if you don't, you will lose money, you will get fired as the commissioner, and you will be on the outside looking in if you're a school.
Saul, this is an arms race. This is really what it's down to at this point. This is a survival of the fittest. And Bob Wade says, by the way, Bob Wade, a great wide receiver at the U of A, is this really about positioning for next round of TV contracts? Yes, that's exactly what this is. Brett Yormark wants to basically eliminate the ACC and be able to bring in their prized possessions. Now, there are certain schools that will never get into the Big Ten. We've talked about this all week. We've talked about Florida State and Clemson most likely not getting into the Big Ten. They're not AAU accredited. Guess what? I don't care. Neither does Brett Yormark. And if you saw what Brett McMurphy put out the other day too, it also was something where, there's really no interest from the SEC in bringing in Florida State because they don't think they bring them a ton, and they've been miserable essentially to deal with. Brett Yormark says, I want those schools. And let's be honest here, Saul, it's the best basketball conference in the country by a mile. But when you look at it from a football perspective, it's good. It's very good. But if you add a Florida State and you add a Clemson, possibly a Miami, then you start looking next level, my friend, at that point.
I mean, you will have a huge footprint in Texas. You will have a huge footprint in Florida, and you're looking at schools that recruit heavily in California already, in Arizona, ASU, Colorado, Utah, not to mention others. So, I mean, you're literally talking from coast to coast. And Florida, listen, next to Texas, Florida is the next behemoth in terms of recruiting states. And to have the major schools outside of Florida, having Florida State and Miami potentially being a part of your conference is ridiculous from a football standpoint. I don't care what FSU's rep is amongst football circles. From the outside looking in, Florida State, my entire life, has been a legit program. Yes. So that you can't go wrong with that.
You know what this comes down to, Saul? There's four schools. Go ahead. Sorry.
Also, Mike, will you explain to the people what AAU accreditation means and why it's important or not important?
Yeah. So basically, AAU accreditation, it's actually very simple. It's marrying, are you a research institution with the kind of next level grad programs you have, and you're the influx of foreign students that come in there. It's basically a conglomeration of about 3 or 4 different things. A lot of schools aren't next level research institutions, so they don't necessarily count. Some are land grant schools. That's obviously something that generally doesn't. But all it basically marries is the research aspect along with the funding and grants, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's cool. It's a cool thing to have. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, it's not something that I look any differently at. Listen, Saul, you graduated, you got multiple degrees from the U of A. I got multiple degrees from the U of A as well. Now, when it comes to Arizona being in the Pac-12 or the Big 12, guess what? Nobody looks at my degree any differently. And I'm assuming they don't look at Saul Bookman's degree any differently.
No, they don't. They don't. Listen, right. My wife graduated from U of A, Colorado State, had an externship at Kansas State, and nobody cares where she got her veterinarian degree from, right? She's a doctor. That's point blank. That's it. We move on. As long as she could do the job, that's all that really matters to people. Can you take care of my pet? They don't say, oh, well, you screwed this up. I wonder what school you went to get your degree. Like, nobody cares about that. So I've largely always felt like the conference or even the school that you go to in terms of your degree are relatively irrelevant unless you're talking about the premier of the premier. You know, you're talking about your Harvards or you're talking about your Stanfords. Like those schools, yeah, they're a different level in terms of academics and they bring a little bit more gravitas to it. But if you're splitting hairs between did you get your degree at Ohio State or Arizona State, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares at all. Now, let's get back to the 4 schools because there's 4 schools that are priority. Then we're going to get into some Big 12 coaching rankings. We're going to talk about Arizona cornerbacks, a lot of different things. But there's 4 schools, Saul. Florida State, Clemson, Miami, and Louisville. Louisville is the other one to me that makes a ton of sense. First of all, it's an underrated football program. It is. If you look since 2000, 8 top 25 finishes. You have had 3 or 4 top 10 finishes under Bobby Petrino. And then in basketball, it is a behemoth. I know that they haven't been good lately. Guess what? It's one of the 5 biggest grossing net basketball entities in the entire country. When you have a Louisville there, that strengthens your brand immeasurably. In our lifetime, Louisville has obviously been very, very good. Rick Pitino, Denny Crum, etc. They have a rabid fan base. They are not AAU accredited. Saul, everybody's talking about those other 3. They would be an ideal fit as well to me.
Yeah, Louisville's always been a solid program. They've taken some hits over the last couple of years, obviously, since Pitino left and trying to get that program back on track, and they're still trying to. But by and large, they have been a legitimate basketball school, a legitimate program. And even in football, they've kind of got it together to some degree to where they've been respectable in most accounts. And hell, they even produced high-level talent like Lamar Jackson. So I just think you got to be fluid. And the thing I love about Brett Yormark is that he is constantly evaluating the status of the conference and how to get better and improve, whether that be TV contracts, digital assets, teams that you can bring in, or even marketing. All those play a part in the development of the Big 12 and the promotion of the Big 12. And he's looking at every angle of that to really give each school the best possible chance to make as much revenue as possible. And that's the thing that the Pac-12 did not do. They did not understand that the schools, listen, at the end of the day, the schools could give 2 shits about what conference they're in. They want to make sure that from a revenue standpoint, they're going to be healthy, they're going to be happy, and they're going to have all the assets available at their disposal to be able to improve their product on the field.
Yes, and the other thing too, private equity. We got to get into this. Still trying to figure out how this works. But there is a private equity aspect here. People are like, well, why would Florida State or Clemson? Why would they jump to the Big 12? Well, first of all, they want to get out of the ACC. The other thing too that we keep talking about is just because you want to go to the Big 10 or the SEC doesn't mean that is going to happen. I mean, look at Utah and ASU. They had no real interest in going to the Big 12. But guess what? Things collapse. They have to do what's best for them. Private equity is something that Brett Yormark has looked a ton at. And essentially what it means is if you can get some kind of, if you can get donations, if you can get people that will throw you some money, he can give Florida State or he can give Clemson a little bit of a boost. Now, that doesn't mean that anybody else is getting less than they signed up for, but at the same time, he can also pay them a little bit more just to make it worth their while, and it's going to make it worthwhile for the entire conference. Private equity is another thing that if Yormark can find it, Yormark's going to make it work, and I think it makes all the sense in the world.
I mean, you saw it happen already with Colorado. You know, it seems ridiculous that $2.5 million might have been really the selling point, but every little dollar helps. And when you're schools that maybe are in the red in terms of your finances and you're trying to fight back to get to black, $2.5 million is nothing to just slouch at or scoff at, I should say. So yeah, I do think the private equity portion of this is going to be viable in terms of trying to get schools to commit. More of like a signing bonus, I think, would probably more than anything else. I don't think long term it's really going to matter because I think everybody's going to get their equal share depending on performance. So I like that. Listen, you got to do everything you can. You got to do everything you can right now. I think the next 5 years are basically going to cement what NCAA football specifically is going to look like in the future. And I think we are just nosediving right now towards basically, I feel like one epic conference. And then I feel like all this is going to be for nothing, to be honest with you. I just feel like we're going to have a mega conference.
College football Pangea. I've been saying for years.
That's it. And everybody's going to be like an independent. It's just going to be crazy. So
now, Andy Bryant, great question. Is the private equity to buy out the AC school from the ACC exit fees? Okay, here's why. That's a big reason why Florida State is.
Great question.
Yeah, I can actually answer that. Florida State is suing to get out of the ACC. And one of the big reasons is they believe that they are the exorbitant exit fees. They don't believe that they should have to pay. And if you read the tea leaves from a lot of people that seem to know, they're saying that Florida State has an excellent chance of winning that. So the private equity, though, because keep in mind, you're getting paid at $31.6 million. That's where all the Big 12 schools are. Right now, Florida State gets 33 in the ACC. So if you're Yormark, you're trying to make this enviable by saying, okay, well, you come over here, you got stability for the next 5 years, and I can give you, say, 37 or 38. I can give you a $5 million boost. That's what he's going for. But the equity would be for the schools that get into the Big 12. That's kind of where that is at now. The other thing, and the great Shane Diefenbach, I thought, was talking about Pangea, as was Saul Bookman. Here's where I think we're at. You obviously have the two major conferences. What Yormark is trying to do is make it out so that if the ACC folds and collapses, there is the third one. And you cannot box that third one out. That is the thing that matters in all of this, Saul. Not being able. So if you got the Big 10, you got the SEC. Brett Yormark comes there and says, I'm the third major one here. I've got the best basketball conference. And oh, by the way, I got 5 top 25 teams, and I've got 3 top 10 national brands. That's, again, why the AAU accreditation means nothing to me, because at these negotiations, Saul, nobody's going to be talking about the AAU accreditation. They're going to be talking about what kind of views, what kind of eyes do you bring?
Yeah, not only that, but you're also talking about on both sides, football and basketball, having the premier teams, some of the premier teams in the country. And this is just off the top of my head, I haven't really thought too heavily into this, but I would gather to say that depth-wise, the Big 12 will be better suited than the Big 10 at that point. Maybe not the SEC quite yet, but the Big 10 for sure, because there's a lot of bad teams in the Big 10. Let's not make any bones about it. In basketball, for sure, basketball, they'd be the most dominant conference in the country. That's kind of already happening right now as we speak, anyway. But in football, they would be able to match that level in the Big 10 and SEC. And now nobody's got an advantage over you, and that's what Brett Yormark's going for. He's going for equality in terms of the other two big conferences and the notoriety and the attention that they get, and he's trying to establish themselves as the third, eventually positioning themselves to be the best conference out of those three, because they could do it in both ends of the spectrum in terms of the revenue dollars. So basketball, football, that's exactly what you want.
Okay, now the other thing to keep an eye on in this is if Florida State does win that lawsuit, the Big Ten is going to come calling for a few of those ACC schools, but it's not going to be the Florida States and Clemson. It's going to be Duke and it's going to be North Carolina because they fit in perfectly with where they are now. If you're Duke and North Carolina, it makes all the sense in the world. There's crappy basketball over there. You can destroy everybody and everybody's, going to say, oh, you beat a great conference. But also academically and culturally, they fit in very well with that blueprint. This to me begins to look a lot like kind of your situation where Oregon and Washington bounce, and it just makes everything easy for everybody else, because at that point, if Duke and North Carolina leave, then what are we really doing here in the ACC? I think there's a very, very real chance that that's going to happen. And then once those dominoes hit, Saul, and we saw this at about this time last year, people act quickly.
Yeah,
it's just being able to allow somebody else to be able to do that for them.
I think situationally, you'll see teams will start to identify conferences that they think geographically make sense or fit their DNA. So if you look at somebody like a Pittsburgh, for instance, Pittsburgh makes sense to be in the Big 12. They just feel like a Big 12 team. They would partner up and have an automatic rivalry. It feels like with like West Virginia. It just makes too much sense to me. Those types of schools are going to be looking for places to go. Wake Forest, maybe even as an example too. So there's a lot of flexibility here. And I know, listen, if you're a school president or an athletic director and or both, you have got to evaluate the market. You have got to start putting out feelers. You've got to get a pulse and a feel for what you can get out there, because I don't understand how you wouldn't right now. It is so toxic in terms of any given day, we can get some bit of news that shifts the landscape immediately. And listen, you and Sheer have been getting a lot of blowback for just saying that, Florida State and Clemson are legitimately interested in going to the Big 12. And that's a fact. That's not a rumor. That's based on actual knowledge from what you're hearing. And so it's because they've been evaluating this for the last several years. Once Texas and Oklahoma said that they were bouncing, everybody else was like, okay, well, let's keep an eye out. Let's keep an ear close to the ground, figure out what's happening. And then all of a sudden, UCLA and USC was the other domino. And after that, everybody's like, okay, shit, we're in a free-for-all. We got to figure it out. And we don't want to be on the outside playing duck, duck, goose and being out.
And where the Big 12 is being very smart, that was very good. It's very good. And by the way, great shirt, Saul. I cannot stop looking at that LeVar Burton shirt. But where the Big 12 is also much smarter than the Pac-12 was. When the Pac-12 had chances to make power moves, they never did. They always laid back and allowed somebody else to do something. They always allowed that, whether that was with saying to Texas and Oklahoma, well, no, we don't really need you. You guys are a little too far south. Or whether that was the, when you have the ESPN ABC deal there this time last summer saying, I think we could probably get something a little bit better. And Brett Yormark says, you know what? Watch this. I'm going to skip the line, and you're left without anything to deal with. Now, Ryan Neal says, and the great Ryan Neal, this is a very good question, and I've got a very simple answer for this. I still don't understand how academics come into this at all. The entire point of the conferences being created in the first place was for athletics. No? So why do schools care so much about academics? Technically, it was academics, but the argument that I've heard time and time again is that these groups, they view themselves as being judged by the company they keep. And if you're kind of a hoity-toity academic institution, or you view yourself as one, you don't want to be around the Big 12, those Big 12 heathens, those unwashed masses. You want to be with the Dukes. You want to be with the Northwesterns. It's dumb, but in Saul, and I want to get your take on this because I think you hit the nail on the head with your wife, and for a variety of different reasons. But with when it comes to you don't really care. I don't really care if Arizona, nobody looks at Arizona as Stanford. Nobody looks at Arizona, whether they're in the same conference as Stanford. Stanford stands on its own. Academic institutions stand on its own. I thought that was a great point you made about your wife, and where you just said, listen, at the end of the day, can you cure my dog? I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Well, not only that, but also again, to think that an entire institution is premier at everything is ridiculous. Okay. There are certain schools, for instance, okay, I'm a U of A Wildcat. I love my school. Don't get me wrong. I went to the journalism program, and I adore those people greatly. But here at ASU, they have a whole damn building, the Cronkite School of Journalism, which is legit and it's nationally recognized, right? If you're a journalism major, why would you bother going to Duke because they have a journalism program when ASU is far more reputable in that space, right? So it doesn't matter what school you go to. It matters what specific area you're trying to get into and what school or institution can give you the best opportunity to set you up for success. So that to that regard, I think there's plenty of schools in the Big 12. Big 12 is known for agriculture. Like you're going to sit there and tell me that I'd rather go to Stanford for agriculture stuff? Get the hell out of here. Let's stop. You're going to go to Kansas State. You're going to go to Iowa State. You're going to go to Oklahoma State, which are far more highly regarded, and Oregon State out there, by the way. Shout out to the Beavers. All ag schools that would be far more reputable than anything else, right? So it is very specific to the degree you're getting. So when it comes to sports and conferences, I largely agree. I don't think it matters what accreditation you have, as long as you can produce people in the subject matter area that you're trying to get after. That's all that matters. So sports should be independent of that for sure.
Okay, now we're going to get to some Big 12 coaches here in a second. I do have to issue an apology. I put this out on Twitter. I've been doing this for a while now. Oregon State fans, you guys are fantastic.
You've been apologizing a lot lately, by the way, Mike. A lot of L's in the last couple of weeks for you.
That's true. But I deserve. But here's the thing, though, and here's where people get too serious about stuff. I am wrong most of the time. So you know what? I'm going to embrace being wrong, Saul Bookman. But Oregon State fans, you guys are fantastic. I had no clue how many of you are out there. You're an awesome, passionate fan base. I hope there's a way to get you guys into the Big 12. I was wrong. I take a big L. Digital Dam, very good follow on Twitter, by the way. Oregon State, kind of the head of the whole posse. But again, I like Oregon State a great deal. I was wrong on that. Like you said, Saul, I've been taking a lot of L's lately.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon State makes too much. Actually, both of those schools, Washington State and Oregon State, as much as I'm not really fans of the Washington State crowd, sometimes they're a little too aggressive. I do think that they both, from an identity standpoint, fit the Big 12 more than anything else. Like, again, I was just talking about ag schools. Like they very much believe in that stuff. So it does make a lot of sense. I hope they do find themselves a way back to a more relevant conference. I hate to see what happened to those two schools, man. It does suck. And
shout out my dad, Washington State.
Oh, okay. All right. There you go. Jay Diefenbach. There you go. The great Jay Diefenbach. Yeah. So again, I at the end of the day, you want to do what's best for your own school. I think Oregon State and Washington State were left holding the bag when they should have been jumping ship as fast as possible to get on one of these lifeboats.
Yep, exactly. All right, now, so again, there's my apology.
But I'm not going to say I'm sad to not go back to Gill Coliseum. I'll tell you that much right now.
Oh, you've been to Gill Coliseum? I've been to Gill
Coliseum. It's the worst arena I've ever been to. In college sports
by a mile. I remember when I went to Haas Pavilion, and I'm like, man, this place is awful. Then I went to Gill, and I was like, whoa, this is a high school gym. I guarantee you played in better high school gyms in Phoenix.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, it's terrible. It's an abomination. They should blow that whole thing up.
We're going to talk a little bit of Big 12 coaching rankings, but first, I want to give a shout out to somebody. And Shane Diefenbach, do you have the huddle video of somebody we need to talk about? Listen, a big question mark for Arizona as you go into the Big 12 is that other cornerback spot outside opposite Tacario Davis. Marquis Groves-Killebrew is somebody who has really, really caught the eye of the coaching staff. He's an interesting story, and if we got the highlights, we'd love to be able to run them. But with Marquis Groves-Killebrew, the thing that's really interesting about him is that he was committed to Georgia, and then he went to Louisville, obviously. Here's what's fascinating, though, Saul. He was dealing with some undiagnosed injuries during there. He was dealing with a hernia that was never actually diagnosed. He is on campus here. He is an X4 or 5. He's an X high 4-star, low 5-star, depending on what you look at. He is going to be very, very nice opposite Tacario Davis. And right now, the coaching staff's got a lot of confidence in him. So I wanted to pass that around. But Saul, if you've got, let's just say, for example, that Marquis Groves-Killebrew is, let's just say he's good. Doesn't need to be Tacario Davis, but let's just say he's good. So you got him, you got Tacario Davis, you got Traden Stukes, you got the 3 safeties back there. It's game on in the secondary, my friend.
Absolutely. Also, we are struggling to try and find that video, so we don't know where you put it there, Mike. But here we go. I agree with you. The one thing that I know a lot of people have questions about is that opposite corner spot. How is it going to really play out in the Big 12? But honestly, whether they have them or not, they're already a top secondary in the country, despite that.
Right.
So I think they're going to be fine. And I think this kid's going to be able to contribute at a high level and just make them better. But I think, you're talking about going from an A to an A+.
Right. And what Bill Parcells always made a point that I thought was very interesting about players one time. He said, because they would ask, how did you get these players that, kind of, you caught on the rebound? And he said, listen, if a guy was picked fifth in the class, at some point he was thought of as very highly by somebody. Who knows what their background is? Who knows what their story is? And that's kind of the way it is here. So I don't really look at somebody and say automatically, oh, well, he couldn't do it here. Look at Taylor Upshaw last year. Michigan, Colorado, didn't really do much. Came here, 8.5 sacks. Sometimes it's just not a good fit, and players can go on and players can learn from that. And I think that's where it's fascinating. So very, very good. It's going to be interesting to see how he plays out. But right now, he would definitely be the leader in the clubhouse.
I think more than anything else, as a college athlete, you have to find the best fit for you and your style.
Right.
Than anything else. Like, it doesn't matter what NIL money you're going to get. It doesn't matter where the school is. If you're a cornerback that loves to play press and you feel like that's your strength, and then you go to a school that plays a lot of zone or a lot of back off coverage, you're not going to be in the best of in the best position to be able to take advantage of your own abilities that you feel like you could showcase. I think that's more important than anything else at any sport and any level. So if he feels like Arizona is going to be able to provide him the type of, coaching and development that he thinks is ideal to develop his own game, then yeah, bring him on and take advantage of this program because it's on the rise.
Saul, what can you tell me about Chicken and Pickle?
Chicken and Pickle is phenomenal. We will be out there next Saturday playing in a pickleball tournament. Myself and the one and only Anthony Gemino are teaming up to destroy the competition. But you can come out next Saturday from 9 to 12. I think we only have two some spots left. Or 4 single spots. There you go. But you can sign up today. All proceeds go to State 48 Foundation. Chicken and Pickle is a phenomenal place. We will be doing some tailgates out there for Cardinal season, actually all season long, and that has not yet to be announced, except I just did. And the food is fantastic. The environment is great. You can play indoor pickleball. You can play covered pickleball, especially in the summer. Playing indoors is ideal, but Chicken and Pickle is a phenomenal place to go. All on the west side. It's one of the few things on the west side that I will actually take the time to go out and see because it is that good.
Yeah, check it out. Head on over to chickenandpickle.com to see all the fun you can have at their Glendale location. Again, very good stuff. Saul, are you good at pickleball? Let's be honest here.
I'm okay. I think, if I didn't have 2 bad knees right now, I would be even better. But yeah, I think I'm pretty decent. I just learned playing a year or 2 ago. So
I have not come across one person that plays pickleball that does not, or that started playing pickleball that does not like pickleball. It's definitely taken off.
It's fun. It's a nice little bit of exercise. It doesn't wear you out completely. It just you get a nice little sweat. It's fun. It's good. Right. I like it.
Now, the other thing that we got to talk about, Circle K. Listen, I am going to be driving up to Tahoe after the show. But don't worry, I'm going to be doing the show while I'm gone, except the boss, the great Saul Bookman, will be hosting tomorrow. But guess what I plan on doing? I plan on taking a lot of pictures of Circle Ks all the way up to Tahoe and back. We will be backing the K. I will be finding many Circle Ks there. By the way, Circle K retweeted something I put out the other day. I got very excited. I screenshotted it too, just so people believe me. But Circle K, here's the deal. Join the inner circle like the great Saul Bookman for free by downloading the Circle K app. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. By the way, that Circle K that you had me take a video of, that's a really nice Circle K, the one in Avondale.
Oh, yeah.
That one's elite. That had a lot. That people knew about that. That is not just a not just a secret that is in the valley. People knew about that, Saul Bookman.
Oh yeah, no, it's on Pebble Creek Parkway out there in Avondale. It's fantastic. It's one of the newer ones. It kind of mirrors the one that's right by my house off of Val Vista and Germain. Also an elite place. They have like 80,000 pumps. It's like hey, listen, I know we're not supposed to cross advertise, but Buc-ee's is largely known in the Texas area as just a mega store. Circle K slowly becoming like a Buc-ee's, which is not a bad thing.
And you know what? Here's the deal with Circle K. It's for the people, by the people. It is community. That's what we like about Circle K.
You're damn right.
Great deal. They help out everybody. So again, check it out, Circle K.
Shout out to the Circle K. Okay, you ready for this? Shout out to the Circle K out in Mare, Arizona. It's been there for 50 years.
Yeah, where's
it's
Mare?
One of the older ones. Yeah, Mare, Arizona. It's in between the turnoff and Prescott. There you go.
Oh, all right. Well, maybe I'll Prescott. By the way, thank you for pronouncing it correctly. Nobody pronounces Prescott correctly. Even native Arizonans, it's always Prescott. No, it is Prescott. Dak Prescott is not Dak Prescott. Just remember that. But all right, now, Saul, we've been talking about Big 12 quarterbacks, Big 12 running backs. Here's the thing. The Digital Dam is in here. Our Oregon State friend, the Digital Dam. By the way, I'm very popular with Oregon State people now because I apologize. Thank you. By the way, this guy's a great follow, and I know I'm not supposed to get off on a tangent, but give me just a second. The Digital Dam is literally probably one of the best people on the entire.
I love watching how this has all transpired over the course of the last season and how it felt like you guys were at each other's throats, and then all of a sudden there was a little bit of harmony and then continuity, and now it's all love, and I appreciate that very much. Yeah, that's what we talk about, bringing people together, because that's what sports is supposed to do.
At the end of the day, again, we're working, like I say, we're working in the toy section of society. Let's have fun here. I will banter with anybody as long as they don't get personal. That's always the way that I go. And let's be honest here. I deserve to have shots taken at me. You just look at me for 5 seconds. You know that I deserve to have shots taken at me. Just don't say anything to me. All right. Now, Big 12, when it comes to the Big 12, Saul, there's a lot of really good coaches in this conference. A lot of really good coaches. Now, I think with Brent Brennan and Dilly, it's hard to really say where they rank because, again, haven't been in there. But I wanted to go through a tier of this. And the coach that I believe is the most underrated nationally, and everybody knows who he is, so it's still kind of funny to me that he's underrated nationally, is Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy is the man. You look at his track record the last 20 years, 4 top 10 finishes, 11 top 25 finishes. The dude is the epitome of consistency and fun. When I look at the Big 12 rankings, I got to put him right at the top, my friend.
I think this college football playoff will help accentuate that and how they've widened the field to 12 instead of 4, because you can make an argument that if it had been at 12, he could have been there 4 out of the last 8 years. Yeah. But because of the way it was structured in the 4, like they always barely missed the mark, right? They were like 5 or 6 in the polls or anything like that. So Mike Gundy to me is the best coach in the Big 12 right now as we speak. I think he's been the most consistent over a longer period of time. You can't really argue with that. Like 20 years now? Just an incredible run over at Oklahoma State and just churning out, great team after great team. But right behind them, there's a couple coaches, and one of them to me is at Kansas State, and Chris Klieman coming over from North Dakota State. I think Chris Klieman has done a phenomenal job of picking up basically where Bill Snyder left off. I know there's a lot of trepidation. Anytime you have that kind of turnover, you don't want to be the guy that follows the guy. But I think he's done a phenomenal job over there and really built that program into what he had kind of at North Dakota State. Now, again, Kansas State suffers kind of from the same affliction as Oklahoma State. Really, really good, has some really great years from time to time, but you can never have just that little extra boost or that one loss that they should not have had on their record in order to get them to propel them into the top 4. And I think they are also going to take advantage of this expanded playoff.
Now you look at them too. They finished the last 2 years 14-18. And Klieman is a lot to me like Kyle Whittingham. He feels like a lifer. He feels like somebody that fits in very well at what Kansas State does.
Wait, did you say they finished the last 2 years at 14-18?
No, ranked.
Huh?
Ranked.
Oh, ranked. Okay, ranked 14, 18. Okay, I was like,
No, they won 32
that's
games
wrong.
the last 2 years. No. 14 and 18. Sorry. I should
No, praising losing coaches.
Yes. No, they're very no. Yeah, I was going to say this guy sucks. But Kleiman though, very Kleiman very good. We got to talk about Kyle Whittingham too.
Yeah, he's number 3 for sure.
Kyle Whittingham is the
If not number 2.
Yeah. I mean, you could make a case too. 2 or 3, whichever one. Kyle Whittingham is the epitome of just solid. And you know what's interesting about him? So he takes over from Urban Meyer at Utah when they go like 3rd in the nation or whatever. Takes them a year or 2, gets everything going. Then they go into the Pac-12, takes them about 2 or 3 years to get everything. Then by the end, I mean, let's be honest here. It was probably the most consistent program in the conference the last 7 or 8 years. The dude is a stud. I also like coaches too that know what their identity is. And I think he just knows that, man, I was meant to coach Utah football. Love Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah, Kyle Whittingham is a tremendous developer of talent and scheme. Like, I don't know if there's too many coaches that are better than him in the country, because he doesn't get 5-star and 4-star athletes. He gets 2, 3-star athletes, and then he builds them. And again, he's one of those coaches that has taken advantage of being able to get into the Polynesian and Samoan communities, just like Brett Brennan is trying to do right now, because a lot of those athletes that are coming over there, obviously the faith portion of that helps a lot too, because there's a predominant, Mormon factor that goes into those communities as well, obviously. So listen, and those players, they churn out and they're big time. You got to give him as much credit as you give Mike Gundy in terms of developing talent and making sure your program's at a high enough level. They've gone to the Rose Bowl several times. Kyle's a fantastic coach. I think those 3 are the top tier.
Yeah, I agree.
And then after that, it drops off a little bit, and then you move over, because I don't put Sonny Dykes in that top tier because of consistency alone.
You know who was very close to that top tier though, Saul Bookman, is Lance Leopold at Kansas.
Again, consistency and length of time put him at tier 2.
Very true. Very true. Agreed. When you look at him and what he's done, though, obviously he's got kind of the background that Kleiman does at Wisconsin Whitewater or whatever it was, winning all those championships. He takes over in year 3 at Kansas. He has him ranked. That is not after taking over a 2-10 team. He is really, really good. Also, somebody that turned down Washington. I like coaches that don't always, and listen, I don't blame anybody for going for the money, but I also like coaches that are kind of like, you know what? I like it here. I like this feels natural to me. Lance Leopold, very much in that. Sonny Dykes, though, like you said, in that second tier. The problem with Sonny Dykes is he just hasn't had the consistency, but there's a lot of good coaches. There's a lot of good coaches in this conference.
Yeah. You could throw Matt Campbell in Iowa State in that second tier as well, to be able to do what he's doing over there at Iowa State. Again, they're consistent, but they haven't had those phenomenal years. They've had 8-9 win seasons, and they've kind of hovered around that 6 to 9 range just about every single year since he's been there. And he was flirting with the NFL for a split second there for a little while too. So a lot of talent in the Big 12 head coaching wise. I think those are kind of like your top 5-6 coaches right there. And then after that, it's a lot of people that need to prove it. Obviously Brett Brennan, Kenny Dillingham. We just don't know what they're really going to be all about. I have a pretty good feel about Coach Brennan.
Right.
Same way with Kenny. I feel like those two are going to be able to propel those programs as we move forward. I think Kenny and ASU will probably win 5 or 6 games this season. And I think that's, again, you want improvement. And then you have a guy like Deion Sanders, right?
Right.
I think this is, to me, out of all the coaches in the Big 12, Deion has the most to gain and he has the most to lose.
Agreed.
Because if he comes out and they win another 4 wins and that's it, guess what? That transfer portal ain't going to be kind to them next year because you're not getting any results.
Right.
And what are we doing here, right? But he gets to 8-9 wins or even better. Oh, shit.
Then it becomes a real problem. Yeah, Deion, to me, Deion is, I have a hard time seeing the Deion tenure at Colorado being remembered just as meh. I think Deion is either going to win 4 games or he's going to win 9 games this year. I don't see Deion hovering in that 7-5 category. Deion to me is either going to be really, really good or people are going to say, all right, why did I fall for this? It's going to be one of the two. Yeah. Okay. Now with Brett Brennan, here's where I'm with Brett Brennan. I have no clue what Brent Brennan's upside is, but I have a very hard time seeing Brent Brennan sucking or not being good, for lack of a better term. Listen, maybe he's not going to be 11, 12 wins, but I can't see Brent Brennan also having a bunch of 3-9 seasons. I don't look at his track record. I don't look at his the solidness of his character. I don't look at any of that, Saul, and say that that's something that people should worry about. What his upside is, I don't know, but I have a very hard time seeing with his background, what he did at San Jose State, him at least not being solid.
Yeah, I want to agree with you. And that's where I'm going to lean. I'm confident that he's going to do a good job this season. I'm confident that the Wildcats will be competitive and play at a high level. What I don't know is how brutal the schedule is going to take a toll on this program. There's no layups any week. Even you would think that you're playing a team like UCF, but UCF has talent, and they've shown that they can upset teams, and they're playing in the what's it called? The space game, which is elite. And if you haven't seen it, it's already sold out. It sold out like 2 months ago.
I was talking with Brian Jeffries about this the other. I'm like, Brian, are you looking forward to UCF? And he says, well, I get to go to the space game. So
yeah. Every player that we talked to last week, when I said, what's the one environment that you're looking forward to go play, I was shocked. I didn't even think about the space game. All of them said space game. Can't wait for the space game. I'm like, damn. All right.
I had a coach tell me something interesting. He said, we're going to know about this U of A team. He said, there's a 2-game stretch, Kansas State and then Utah. Obviously, at Kansas State, at Utah. And listen, if you can go 1-1 in those, then it's game on, my friend. Because those are brutal games. I mean, this. I mean, you went to K-State for how long did you go to K-State, by the way?
Just a year.
Just a year. But I mean, it's a tough place to play. I mean, it's a rowdy environment. And then you go to Rice-Eccles. Those are both going to be probably top 15, top 20 teams. If Arizona can get out of that first month going 3-1, I think you feel very comfortable then about being able to, at least traverse it. Again, there's going to be a lot of tough games, but 0-2 is going to be difficult.
They go 2-0, and you're talking about a team that's going to be ranked in the top 8 in the country at that point.
And then I start pestering Saul Bookman about we get our college football playoff tickets. And ready, my friend, those are ready.
Pump the brakes.
UCF, going back, I know this is weird to talk about UCF a lot. They also have like the most underrated running back duo in the country.
It's
RJ Harvey's a beast, but then they brought in Penny Boone, who was the shout out the Mac player of the offensive player of the year last year from Toledo. They're insane.
And you have KJ Jefferson, who's very underrated at the quarterback position from Arkansas over there as well. So this is
massive.
I mean, this is a guy that had 24 touchdowns and 8 picks at Arkansas. I like KJ Jefferson. Plus, I like Gus Malzahn. The whole theory of Gus Malzahn, I like a lot. Like watching him. I like rebound stories. I think he's a cool dude. Also, before we get to a little bit offensive line talk, I have a statement for Arizona fans out here, Saul Bookman. I have gotten some blowback from U of A fans about my friendship with Kenny Dillingham. We need to be very clear about this. First of all, I hope ASU loses every game, but I have no problem being friends or being friends might be too strong a term, but being, friendly with somebody that I think is a good person. I think
besties is the right word, Mike.
What's that?
I think besties is the right word.
All right. Well, either way, I like Kenny Dillingham, the person. I'm not going to keep talking about it, but I make no apologies for that. I think we're at this stage. Listen, nobody likes trolling people more on Twitter than me, but it's never personal, though. People need to understand this. With Kenny Dillingham, he's a good dude. It's okay to say he's a good dude, Saul Bookman.
From a business standpoint, I need ASU to do as well as possible.
Oh, I get you doing it, yeah.
From a personal standpoint, I hope they get blown out by 50 points every single game. And that's okay, because I have tremendous relationships with a lot of people at ASU. We have a lot of employees that went to ASU, so I have a vested interest in how they do. But at my core, I can't root for them, right? But I like them, so that's okay.
I get it. But again, and he was a really good sport for the Del Taco cheeseburger. By the way, I had a Phoenix news station reach out to me about that yesterday. And I was like, it's 2000 and late, man. That happened last week. So you might see that coming to a Phoenix news station. Just saying.
Hey, did you tell them to read a book? It's in a book.
Oh, man.
No?
Hey, can I do my LeVar Burton? Take a look.
Look,
It's in a
it's in a
book.
book. Okay.
A reading rainbow. I can't
Okay.
fly
All right, Mike. We get it.
Okay. Oh man, that was such. I love that shirt. All right, now let's get to the offensive line. Let's get to the offensive line here for a second. A natural segue from LeVar Burton to the offensive line.
Oh, real quick. You're right. My bad. I completely omitted BYU head coach.
Kalani Sitake.
Yeah, very good coach.
Mhm.
Very good coach. I would put him in that second tier as well.
Okay,
There you
gotcha. Now, the offensive line. I am at the point now with Arizona. By the way, I can't wait for camp to start. Very excited. Very early camp, by the way. I'm going to have to talk with the great Shane Diefenbach because we're going to have to probably move the time because camp is from 8 to 11. So we might have to move the time of the show, but we'll get to that later. Here's where I'm at, Saul. I feel great about quarterback. I feel great about the wide receivers. I feel great about the running backs. 4 of the offensive linemen are fantastic. There's that one spot, though, that we need to be able to, Arizona's got to be able to find a spot. You've already got Jonas Avenea at one of the tackles. He's a first-round pick. You got Wendell Moy at guard. You got Josh Baker. You got Leif Magnuson. There is one really, there's another a position that you got to find out, though, that other tackle. And we saw in the Alamo Bowl, and it got better when they moved some things around, but you got to be able to protect Noah. There's a lot of different options out there. There's no real leader in the clubhouse. This is going to be big. To me, go ahead.
I think it's huge because, obviously I know people are naturally going to gravitate to Polito. But there's always been injury concerns with Polito and his consistency there.
Right.
So you have to have other options, and I'm really interested to see how that's going to play out in camp. One of the names, obviously they got to transfer from Oregon, Wooten. I don't know if he's going to be that guy or not. I've heard good things, but what say you, Mike? You've been there in person and seen these guys in action.
Jonah Rodriguez is the one that I'm really looking at. Now, you might say, Mike, who's Jonah Rodriguez? Well, thanks for asking. Jonah Rodriguez from San Diego State. He was a top 40 kid in California last year, and he has come here, and there is a very real chance that he's going to be that starting tackle. He was very highly thought of coming out of high school. And the one thing about it, Josh Oglesby is a very, very good offensive line coach. I know he likes him a great deal. That's the one position, though, Saul. They got to get some solidarity.
Do you think there's a chance that they would switch Jonah from right to left?
I think there's a legitimate chance of that. I think with Jonah, he is so good that you can basically do whatever you want with Jonah. It was an interesting conversation. So Oglesby, the offensive line coach, was asked about Jonah, and he said, because a lot of people projected him at guard originally, to go in the NFL. And he said, listen, this guy can make a ton of money, more money at a tackle position. So we went to him and we said, hey, would you rather play tackle or would you rather play guard? And he's like, well, and then they said, we think you could probably make a little bit more money at tackle. So that was their discussion. That's how it went. That's what I would do. I would put him at left tackle and then I would deal with the right tackle. Obviously they know more than me, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. They've got to figure out that one, because other than that, Saul, it's game on at that point. Then offense.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree. Left side is always the money side for a right-handed quarterback, and you got to make sure you protect him. If Noah Fafita was a lefty, I'd say leave Jonah on the right side. No doubt about that. But since he's a righty, you got to protect his blind side. So Jonah moving over, I feel like would make me feel a little bit more comfortable, because I feel like Jonah's talent will be able to, adapt to that side. I think he's going to be versatile on both sides anyway. So I'm excited about that. But if they leave him on the right-hand side, that would tell me, at least this would be my impression, that they feel very confident in whoever they're going to put over there on that left side, because they know, listen, man, that's where you make your money. If you F up that left side, you might F up your whole season.
Right.
So, I'll trust the coaching staff in that regard.
What we like about Saul Bookman, too, is that he's very much a boots on the ground guy. He doesn't ask anybody to do things that he doesn't do. I want to get something about your take on somebody in NBA Summer League. But first, Saul, you need to give me a little bit of credit here from the solidarity part. I thought was really good, and you just let that go. You did not care.
I didn't even notice that.
Credit.
I caught it, Mike. It was very good.
Thank you. That's all I asked from the great Shane Diefenbach, not the great Saul Bookman because of that. All right, Keshad Johnson. Keshad Johnson, that dude is going to find a spot in the NBA. I was on a couple of different Heat blogs, which, let's be honest here, who doesn't spend their time on Heat blogs? And basically Pat Riley was saying behind the scenes that this guy could be a rotation player for us. Saul, he killed it in Summer League. Talk about Keshad Johnson, my good friend.
I'm still blown away that he wasn't drafted. And that's not bias. That's just watching the kid in person. He's so flexible in terms of the positions he can guard 1 through 5. He's strong. He's athletic. He's energetic. He plays with fire and tenacity. He's always been that kid. And then you see him from San Diego State to Arizona. This is the thing that separates him from a lot of the other prospects. And we got a couple prospects that are on the Suns right now, and Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro, who have not shown that development with their outside shot. But if you see Keshad Johnson go from San Diego State to Arizona, and you see the amount of threes he shot last year and how consistent he was, again, you don't have to shoot 50 or 40% from 3. You just have to make enough to be a threat. Right. And Keshad Johnson definitely did that last year. I just thought his all-around game was perfectly suited, especially for, of all teams, the Miami damn Heat. Right. Like, I feel like they just hit the jackpot again. And, you know, I put out a couple tweets though in the last week about Keshad. And then you'll have these, you know, randos that come out and they're like, calm down, it's Summer League. Bro, look at every other Summer League player out there that's fighting to make the roster, even first-round picks. He's outperforming a majority of them. So shut up and color.
You know what I hate about this too? I hate when somebody's like, oh, it's only Summer League. Nobody's saying he's going to be a starter, dude. What they're saying is he's a solid rotation piece. And what you saw is a guy that can definitely be a solid rotation piece. There was a highlight we played the other day where he was basically covering four or five different positions at the same, almost at the same time. And he does it with a smile on his face too. Listen, being a good person and working hard can get you a lot of places in life. Keshad Johnson marries all that with also being a really good athlete as well. So, you know,
Keshad's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. Like, I love the kid. When I met him in person, saw him play in person multiple times. I think he's uber talented. And again, the work ethic that he has is what's going to end up separating him from most. And he wants it. He wants to perform at a high level, and he's got the ability to.
All right, Saul Bookman. There's also no better time to become a PHNX diehard. We had 2 new friends of mine sign up. Well, 2 guys that have been with me for a long time. Back the A Ray is now in the Discord.
Let's go, Back the A Ray.
Very much like Back the A Ray. He gives me all his kids' lingo terms about now. I guess it's very popular to say less. That's what some of the kids say now, and things like that. But either way, he's awesome. There's other people in there as well. The great Andy Bryant, Kobe Thiel, Erica L. Day. No better time to become a PHNX diehard, especially with football right around the corner. And they're all talking about EA Sports, everything going on there as well. No better time to become a PHNX diehard. Plus, Saul Bookman, you guys got some pretty cool stuff coming up here, if I'm not mistaken.
We have a lot of stuff going on all the time. All you have to do is go to gophnx.com/events, and you can find out all the events that are going on. We're working on some U of A related events as well as we move forward. We're trying to get some maybe a football takeover down in Tucson for everybody to come in and party at. But we've got some basketball things in the works as well. Listen, man, we want to bring the community together. We want to go hang out. We want to do cool shit. So help us be a part of that for sure. Also, my kids have been saying the word sold a lot, like, oh, he sold or whatever, basically sell out. So,
why don't they just say sold?
Go away, Mike.
All right. Now, on that note, though,
before we leave, Mike, I do want to say, speaking of EA college football, I've been playing it, and funny enough, Toledo is my team that I picked for my dynasty. Through 5 weeks, Arizona is the number 4 team in the country, and Fafita is the 3rd in Heisman voting.
Actually, in my game, so I'm Coastal Carolina. Shout out,
go Chanticleers.
Chanticleers. There we go. And it's almost the same thing. Noah is in the top 5 of the Heisman race through 6 weeks right now in the game too. So I'm not even playing with Arizona, and that's what's happening. So that's pretty dope. Pretty cool.
Now, is Jaden Rashada anywhere for our good friend Anthony Totri?
No.
All right. Now, before I sign off, I will be on assignment starting Monday live from Tahoe. Very excited. Here's how cool Saul Bookman is. Whenever I go on vacation, I always, this time though, I was told that I have to actually put in the vacation, but no days off around here. I do feel bad. I won't be on tomorrow, but that will be the only day I will not be here. Saul Bookman, what do you got on tap for tomorrow, my friend?
Still working on it. I think I'm close to getting a pretty big guest, so we'll see about that. If not, we'll have somebody else who we'll say is also a big guest, but maybe not as widely known as the popular guy that I'm trying to get for tomorrow. But we're going to talk a little bit about everything. Obviously, we're going to give a little bit of a preview into the season. We'll talk about the EA Sports kind of rundown. I got a couple things, little tidbits about the U of A, action on the game, which is pretty cool. And then we'll talk about a couple other topics depending on who the guest is. So
awesome.
It'll be fun.
All right. He is the boss, Saul Bookman, and the behind the scene, the precocious Shane Diefenbach. I am merely Mike Luke. I will be back with you Monday. Don't worry. The boss has you covered tomorrow. The boss, that just rings well. Come back with us. You have been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.